I'm going to talk about timing and when to get your dahlias started, and because there are different ways of doing it, it can lead to confusion, I think. The two very different ways of starting dahlias is to take cuttings, which is, I've got my pot dahlias on the go here and some cuttings, and or else tubers, which can be single tubers, they can be clumps. These are my cafe-au-laits, and I've divided them off into twos and threes, which is a sort of compromise between single tubers, which are fine, and a whole clump, which is probably not good to put a whole clump of dahlias in. It's an easy, quick way of doing things. Just put the clump in the ground when the ground's warm enough, and it'll grow for you. But you're wasting potential, really, because there's more potential plants in a clump of dahlia tubers. So what I'm going to do is write down a timeline and some suggestions as to when you can get things going in the way of cuttings and tubers. So this is my timeline, and I'm going to put in the months of the year. Now, one of the really important dates for dahlia growing is the last frost date in your area. So this is the last time you can expect a frost to appear, and of course frosts will kill your dahlias outright. So you have to be fairly confident that there's going to be no more frosts in order to put your dahlias into the ground. So if we work backwards from the last frost date, now in the UK here, the last frost date, northern UK, which is where I am, the last frost date is June the 1st, they say, although it does tend to be coming backwards a little with global conditions. So I'm going to put June in. I'm going to write down last frost date. So that is when we're going to get our dahlias into the ground, 1st of June. And then we simply count the months back from there. May, April, March, February, and January. And the two simple rules: cuttings, which take from when you start them off to when you plant them out, 12 weeks. These are general rules, and they're flexible. They're not strict, but they are a guidance, and 16 weeks before they start to flower. So those are the two timings that we're going to extrapolate onto our timeline here. And the other way of growing dahlias is tubers, and in general they take 8 weeks from when you start them off to when you plant them out, and another month after that and they'll start to flower for you. So there's our dates. And what we do now is, if we say we're thinking about our cuttings and when we should start our cuttings, that is to put tubers into compost and let them start to grow, put them on heat, have some light available. So you have to have these facilities to do cuttings, and they'll start to put shoots out for you. So the earliest we would want to start doing that is sometime in early January. So that's start cuttings. Tubers, meaning you start the tubers, you put the tubers into compost around about the 1st, 2nd, 3rd week in January. So we've got our cuttings going from the beginning of January, and about a month later they will start to put shoots out for you. So that's when you're first taking the shoots, and that's when the clock starts ticking here. So 12 weeks from when the cutting goes into a pot. And those tubers will put out shoots for something like 2 months, maybe up to 3 months, and you'll be taking cuttings, and each time you take a cutting and put it into its own pot, you then have to wait for it to root and begin to grow. So this process takes around about 12 weeks from when you take the cutting to when you're wanting to plant out. And of course they'll be in different stages, because the ones that appear in April will take 12 weeks from then until it'll be ready to plant out. It'll stay in the pot until then. So those are the two dates for cuttings, and that's the sort of process which you'll learn. Now, as far as tubers are concerned, because they take 8 weeks from when you put them into compost to when they're ready to go into the ground, if we extrapolate back from the 1st of June, when we expect to be putting them into the ground, we'll simply come 2 months back from that, and it will be around about April the 1st or so. So that's our normal tuber start. So we'll wait 8 weeks before we've got a plant that's okay to go into the ground, and then it'll be another month after that before they start to produce blooms. So you're looking at July, and for some varieties which are more slowly growing, then it'll be August before you're seeing any blooms. So in order to try and speed that process up, you can plant your tubers earlier than that. And if I say around about the beginning of March, so you've gained a month now, and we'll call that early tuber start. Because it's March, and because the air temperature can be quite cold, you're going to have some facilities to keep your tubers happy, to keep them growing, and that requires heat. So some facility to warm the soil up in the pot so that it's in growth. And once it does start to put shoots out, then you'll need some light. So in general, you'll need facilities of some sort. A greenhouse would do if it's heated, or if there's heat available in the greenhouse. And the tubers will do okay so long as they've got enough heat to keep the physiology going, and they've got enough light to keep the leaves happy. And so I hope that little run through of timing has been useful for you, and the dahlia season is about to get started properly, so hope to see you for some further videos. Thanks very much for listening and watching. Bye for now.